my money ready. It's a crazy world, and I need that money ready.
Welcome back to Houston Life. With the government shutdown still underway, many folks are wondering how it could affect their benefits. Our next guest is Mark Whitehead. He's a board-certified disability attorney who has represented the Houston community since 1992. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today on Houston Life.
Well, thanks, Derek. Thanks for having me.
First of all, let's talk about the difference. When we talk about Social Security, people usually think of retirement benefits, but you're getting a lot of questions about disability Social Security benefits.
Well, that's the thing. So the Social Security Administration runs two separate programs. They run the retirement program, which is what most of us aspire to do. We want to get there at whatever, 62 or 67 or 70, whatever your particular age is. But there's also the disability program, which in effect accelerates people to their retirement benefits at an earlier age if they're disabled and unable to work. For example, cancer, heart disease, Parkinson's, some major medical condition that takes people out of the workforce. That's part of the insurance that you buy when you make your monthly Social Security or your FICA payments out of your paycheck.
You're paying into that system.
You're paying into that insurance system.
So right now, though, are offices shut down, or are some Social Security offices still open?
So the offices are still open, but a lot of the auxiliary services that they provide are being cut back or otherwise limited. Sometimes they're using third-party contractors that they're used to that are no longer available to them. So what we're seeing is a slowdown, drastic slowdown in a lot of the basic services that people use normally, and then also in processing unadjudicated disability claims and just other things that people would normally take for granted, such as somebody answering the phone if you have to call because you have a question.
So longer wait times are to be expected.
Longer wait times are to be expected.
When you mention unadjudicated disability claims, you're talking about claims that are maybe in progress. What do we need to know essentially? If we're already on disability, we're receiving those benefits, would we be affected, or is it only if we're applying for first-time benefits?
So if you're already on disability benefits, you should not be affected. Your payment should proceed just as if they were a retirement benefit payment, which again also is not affected. Remember, the Social Security Trust Fund is separate from the federal budget. So that money is there, that money is protected, that money is there to go to recipients who qualify. The problem is the administration of this agency is what starts to get affected and what starts to slow down. So, for example, if you have applied for Social Security disability, your application is still there and it's still pending. The problem is that we're seeing a slowdown of how that application is processed. And then if that application is denied, and statistically speaking, most of them are denied on the initial application, then you have a right to appeal that denial and take it through the appellate process. That process also is being slowed down.
Interesting to know that most applications are denied initially.
Statistically, about 70% are denied initially.
That's where your office comes in.
That's where we come in.
Because you can help people file those appeals.
Yes, we do.
Okay, talk to me about what we need to know if we're filing for disability. I mean, let's say we're in the middle of the shutdown, as we are, right? Those government deadlines might not apply to the government, but as a consumer, as a person, all of my deadlines would apply to me, right? So the worst thing you could do is miss a filing deadline.
Yes. So either a filing deadline or an appeal deadline, either one. So, and I know that's kind of a distinction that only lawyers really care about, but it is kind of important. But the key is everything is done first in time within the Social Security Administration. In other words, everybody is put in line at the point they put in their application or the point that they put in their appeal of a denial of the application, and you go in order, regardless of how fast the administration is processing.
You still have a place in line.
You still have a place in line, and you want to keep your place in line. And what the danger I see right now is because everything is slowed down, people may be under the misimpression that a particular deadline doesn't apply to them because there's a government shutdown. That is not the case at all.
So they still have to hit their deadline, otherwise they risk losing their place in line altogether and starting over from the beginning?
Right, and the last thing you want to do is get kicked out of the system and then you get stuck back at the end of the line.
Because then you're waiting
then
a whole
the
lot
wait
longer.
just gets longer and longer.
Okay, so to be aware of this issue, aside from hitting those deadlines, what else do our viewers need to know about this process of filing and this moment in time where the government is shut down, but the clock is still ticking in other ways?
Yes. So one of the things I always encourage people to do is to get their applications in as soon as possible, because there's a concept called retroactive benefits. And you, under many circumstances, not all circumstances, but under a lot of circumstances, you can get retroactive benefits up to 12 months prior to your application. However, that's why your application date matters. If you mess around, you are starting to lose potential back due benefits. So you need to get your application in line, even though the government may be slow right now. You need to get your application in line because you don't want to lose the possibility of those retroactive benefits.
Critical key.
Critical key. If your application is denied, you only have 60 days to file an appeal. And 60 days is not a long time to file a legal appeal to a denial and get yourself into the appellate process. And that needs to be done quickly. So if you miss that 60-day deadline, again, you're kicked out, you go back to the back of the line.
Okay, Mark Whitehead, we got to leave it there. Thanks so much for your expertise.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I learned something new, and I hope our viewers did as well. In the meantime, for more info on the shutdown and your benefits, you can call 713-897-8036. You can also go online, disabilitydenials.com, disabilitydenials.com. All right, thanks again, Mark.